Okay, so Aries has a little more change than Susano, which is funny because I think some early flash testers were like, "What changed about Aries?" Was like, "Well, 2 whole abilities were reworked, plus other changes." So, but some changes easier to see right off the bat than others. But in general, again, Aries also a very successful god. One we think has aged really well, really fun, really exciting. One of our highest DPS supports, right? High kill potential for a support. Has a lot of forms of control, but kind of in different ways than other gods that play support do. He doesn't really have that lockdown as much as he has that attrition and damage over time and the crippling effect, right? Preventing people from dashing away. So the big changes to Aries are going to be his passive and his ability 2 are both going to be completely new.
And we are back in game.
Oh, that was so fast.
Quick.
Yeah.
Look at you. There's no one better at this job than Pon. This specific job of driving during the patch notes.
You want me to go over the passive?
Yeah, why don't you?
Yeah, so the first major thing you'll notice is his passive is different. You can see that I'm giving both intelligence and strength down here. And the way that works is his passive in Smite 1 is all about building a whole bunch of aura items to get a whole bunch of magical power. And that is something that we just don't really have as many aura items in Smite 2, largely because we're trying to make sure that we don't have these characters that just turn into aura bots to provide everyone a whole bunch of protections and make it so that everyone has to, there's a lot of things that came with aura items. But since we don't really have those, Aries needed something new. And we want to give him a more unique build challenge because the aura was a kind of fun build challenge that he had. So now what it is for every 20% of your protections that you buy from items, that gets converted into strength. For 100% of the cooldown rate you buy, that's converted into intelligence. So the more protections you build, the more strength you're bringing to your team in an aura, including yourself. For the more cooldown reduction you're going, or cooldown rate that you're going, you'll bring more intelligence to your team. And Aries is a god that scales off both of them as well, so you can focus on different aspects of your kit, or you can choose to build to specifically augment how your team wants to play. So he himself is a very aggressive aura bot, where as he builds more utility and more kind of tanky supporty, he brings that extra power to the team. Or he can obviously go pure damage and forgo this. You get some for free from just leveling up.
Yeah.
Full int and cooldown would make for a really strong just int DPS build. Like I've played jungle Aries full int, full magic power in Smite 1, and it's underrated. It's good. So Aries has a lot of flex to be, true tank. Even when he's true tank, he's going to do some damage.
Right.
Even if you build full true tank. But he has a lot of really interesting. This passive gives him those hybrid build options that can be really good, or even more true DPS build options.
And in fitting with his theme is this kind of war leader who wants to lead the charge and just wants to get into the thick of it and fight and be aggressive as the god of war. His 2 has also been reworked. In Smite 1, it was an aura that you activated that just gave everyone some protections and some HP 5. And in Smite 2, it's a lot more active. So when you activate it, you give everyone who's around you immediately a long duration buff. And I believe the buff is about 6 seconds long. And this buff gives you protections and in-hand power. So all your basic attacks hit harder. So if I activate it, you can see I buff myself and now I deal some more damage with my auto attacks. You can see I also have a mark on me that's really bright and lit up right now. And what that is as you deal damage to gods, you get stacks. So activate it. This is empty. 1, 2, 3. Oh, because I have a proc, it procced it. So my item also counted as a proc. But if you attack a god with 3 unique instances of damage, the buff triples in strength and gets 4 seconds longer in duration, and that's tracked separately for your whole team. So you buff your team with this aggressive thing that wants them to go in and fight, and if they are successful at that, they get to reap the benefits of that and actually get to be way more powerful. So a much more active, more offensive, asking your team to do something type of effect than the passive aura that he previously had in his second ability. All in the theme of he is that kind of frontline support who wants to be in the thick of fights and wants to encourage his team to be in the thick of fights.
So it is still a point blank AoE buff. It's essentially like the same shape of a hit ability, but it has very different effects and the unique individual upgrade per player. So if you buff your whole team, each individual ally has to do their own performance-based challenge to buff to stack that up and power it up for themselves. Was something really new and really exciting that we think fits the character and the kit really well. Cool. And it's one of those things that I'm just surprised we hadn't done something quite like this yet before.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it just feels super natural to Smite and Aries, and it's really fun to play with.
And it wouldn't be Aries without some chains, right,
Yep.
Pon?
So we also got, of course, his AO1 chain shackle ability, and we got some really cool stuff going on with the chain tech where it kind of droops and gets more taut as you actually get in different ranges. And one of the nice quality of life features we actually added was it actually now shows when it's about to break. So you can see here, I'm actually at a range where if I keep going, it's going to break. And if I keep going, sure enough, it breaks. So you get a little bit more feedback, both from the actual chain itself, but also just that little bit of flashing.
And look at that refire border around the ability icon. Shows you the refire window.
Looking good.
The third ability, obviously, is the other thing about this is he is strength and intelligence based now. So all the things that are like the physical aspects of him hitting with the sword, the chain connecting with you, those are strength. So those are the ones that actually scale off the strength, and you can make it so your initial hit of your chain hits really hard. Things that are more burning, like the actual chain being on you, that this hot chain on you, the flamethrower from his AO3, those are more intelligence based, and they will scale off intelligence. So his 3, which does this kind of burning damage and does percentile health damage, the percentile health damage actually scales with your intelligence. So depending on what you focus on, you can be more this long duration burn percentile health damage, or it can be a lot more burstier with your chain initial hits and your auto attacks in between. Another nice quality of life change is there are some rules around, like, if you chain someone and they 3'd, you could keep firing your chain. But if you did it the reverse way, that actually didn't work in Smite 1. We've now just eased that up, so now you can obviously use both during each other freely without any preconditions, which just smooths out his gameplay rotation. And then the final change we have is for his ultimate. His ultimate is super iconic. We went and tried a lot of different things, trying to see if we needed to change him based off of beads being a more limited resource, or if people felt like they could try and get away from him with Blink, or if we wanted to try stuff different. But we realized that, like, he does do the ultimate where he pulls everyone in, and so obviously you got this big giant pull and everyone comes in. The main change for him is, one, it now has a visual pull component, so instead of just teleporting instantly to the center, they actually get pulled towards that location, so you get a little bit of just more movement in the ability, which feels good. But also, so we're going to pull them, come crashing down, they get stunned. But also, if I whiff, because at some point you're gonna blink Aries and whiff.
And whiff. It happens to the best of us.
This area underneath him, when he comes slamming down, is still a stun area.
Oh, yeah.
So not only can you pull someone, but you could also, like, stand on top of your carry and, like, protect them from someone who you might miss the initial pull on. And that gives you that extra flexibility of just your position matters a little bit more. Even if you do successfully pull people, you might want to, like, try and land on someone else that you didn't successfully pull, or they might have beadsed off the pull, but you then want to try and punish them for that by landing on them instead. So that little extra bit of control is going to be useful for him, and high-end players, Aries players, are going to make, I think, a lot of good use of that.
We got to talk about the CC immunity rules too, Pon.
Yep. So the other big thing is Aries ultimate, the pull was you had to immune it at the moment of the pull. And over Smite's lifetime, we've done different rules on, like, what happens with things when you pure beads off them. Daji notably has the chain so that if you get hit, if you beads, they just go off you. You don't have to wait for that pull time. And we wanted to match that behavior because we think that just gives players more control over when they actually remove this effect. So if you become CC immune at any point during the chains, they will immediately fall off you. And then you don't have to have that timing element for it. So let's see if I can...
This one is a really big deal, actually, because Aries would very frequently apply his ult to targets who are already CC immune and then wait for the CC immunity to fall off and then pull them. That doesn't work anymore. So in the Aries mirror matches and testing, we had a lot of people like, whoever ults first, the other Aries can just ult back and will always win that. That doesn't work anymore because the Aries you hit is still CC immune. So you have to wait for that to finish.
Yeah, trying to get them to actually cast their ultimate.
Can you get the Amir? You can't bots shoot them up?
I can bot shoot 4. Ooh, I can't bot shoot 4. Maybe they don't have... Nope, they will not respect that right now. So I can't, but I'll try to get Ymir to be CC immune ultimate. But essentially it's, if they are immune during the time that you cast them, they won't be a valid target for you to chain in the first place.
Yes.
And if they become CC immune for any reason, like Ymir ult or like purification beads, while the chain's on them, it'll also fall off. We are also looking at feedback to make that a bit more clear, because the situations where they're actively CC immune and you ult and you don't see a chain, it feels like you don't have the feedback there. Yeah. So we are looking to improve that. But that is intent, and it makes it so that people can cleanse off this effect, and you have a bit more idea of like when people have removed it, and people have a better understanding of like, oh, this is not going to affect me now anymore.
Right. So I see chat is definitely getting it right off the bat with like kind of constraining CC immunity and beads a little bit more in Smite 2. Having some additional anti-CC here is really valuable. because this effect is really polarizing if you can't counter it. So this effectively adds for a lot more counterplay, which we think is really good. And he does. You've stacked them all on top of each other. He also still has that crash landing stun at the end. So even if people do CC immune the chains, if you stick close to them, you can still hit them with that damage and stun spike after their CC immunity fades. So there's a lot of extra layers of counterplay to this ultimate, as opposed to it just being very prescriptive before. You can also Combat Blink does not have an ability or damage restriction, so you can ult people and then Combat Blink away to pull them even further.
Yeah. Just I figured I should show that off because that's also part of it.
People will definitely ask.
So those are the 2 new gods for this alpha test that you will be able to play today.
Yeah.